Hey guys, Nash is back with another question that was posed to me, and I'm going to break this one up into also three fun parts. I actually put my laptop over here and I have notes. I actually have notes this time because this topic is going to require some history lessons. Remember what I said last time about research, kids? Research. Look, I did the research for you. So sit back, grab a half empty bottle of orange crush soda. Totally not sponsored, unfortunately. So the first question is what is the origin and meaning of Vegvísir? Vegvísir, let me input that over here for you. Vegvísir is also commonly known as a Nordic compass stave, is probably the most popular interpretation of it. Another is Wayfinder, things like that. It's meant to keep you from getting lost and allow you to find your way. The origin of Vegvísir is, it can be traced back to three Icelandic grimoires from the 19th century. So the first one is the Hold Manuscript, which, if you do some research, you'll probably stumble upon this one. So the Hold Manuscript is one of the three, and probably the most important that most people know that it appears in. And the translation that is written with the stave is carry this sign with you, and you will not get lost in storms or bad weather, even though in unfamiliar surrounds. So, I mean, that goes hand in hand with it being a compass stave to help you find your way and prevent you from getting lost. The second is a book of spells, Galdrakvar, and this one, the translation of the description is carry this sign with you and you will not get lost in storms or die of cold bad weather and will easily find your way from the unknown. Still keeps with the compass, finding your way, not getting lost. And the third one, which is another Galdrakvar, which is decidedly more Christianized because magic in Iceland is a very interesting topic that you can spend like an entire hour lecturing on. It was very interesting even after Iceland was Christianized. A lot of the Icelandic magic practices kind of molded Christianity with everything else. Like, they still had pagan. It was a weird amalgamation. I don't know how else to put it, because, I mean, there's also different ones that you can find where they basically don't differentiate between God and demons. Like, they'll invoke the Christian God at the same time also demons. So it's kind of like, I don't really care who helps me out in this practice, just here you go. Anyway, so the third book that Vegvísir appeared in was decidedly more Christian, with the description of Vegvísir being, to avoid getting lost, keep this sign under your left arm. Its name is Vegvísir, and it will serve you if you believe in it. If you believe in God in the name of Jesus, the meaning of this sign is hidden in these words, so you may not perish. May God give me luck and blessing in the name of Jesus. Obviously, that's very Christian. So, those are the three main manuscripts from the 19th century that Vegvísir appears in. So, the origin of Vegvísir can be officially traced back to these 19th century manuscripts. The Hold manuscript being the most famous and probably the one that most people would be interested in. There's not really evidence of it being used in the Viking Age, so it's more of a modern, I mean, if you want to consider, I mean, technically the 19th century is modern if you compare it to other, like, of the rune stones and stuff like that, but yeah, it's more of a recent creation. Does that negate its use? No. It still serves a purpose. It's still a Nordic symbol, and really, to be honest, I mean, a symbol is kind of what you make it. Symbols can change over time, and a lot of symbols can take completely different meanings depending on how many people tend to take it that way. Just because it wasn't officially used, to our knowledge, I mean, 1,000 years ago, doesn't mean that it can't still be used, and it is widely used. It's very popular among heathens today, so there's nothing stopping you from going out there and using it. This one is a personal favorite of mine, and if I can throw up that picture of my altar, I believe I have a painting of it or something. That painting is actually I did that. It's a simple thing to paint, but at the same time I did that like probably 8 years ago when I first started getting into heathenry, and I was like, hey, heathen symbol, and it's just kind of sat there because, it's a token of when I was starting out. Anyway, this one always throws me through a loop because it is now 3:03 a.m. and this pronunciation is going to be terrible. Ægishjálmr. Ægishjálmr. I actually didn't butcher that too much. Okay, cool. Is another symbol that a lot of people widely know, the Helm of Awe, or the Helm of Terror. A lot of people consider it to be traced back to the saga of Fafnir, and I actually found it in my handy-dandy poetic edda. In the Fafnismal, Fafnir says, I wore a terror helmet against all men. So long as I sat on my treasure, I thought I alone was braver than everyone. Not many came to meet me. And that's one particular translation of it. Another translation of it is, the helm of awe I wore before the sons of men. In defense of my treasure, amongst all, I alone was strong. I thought to myself, for I found no power a match for my own. So, people tend to take the helm of awe I wore before the sons of men to be this symbol connected to the sagas via Fafnir saying helm of awe. So people tend to think that that connection brings it back to the Old Norse saga, and for what we know, it very well could. There is debate over whether specifically the saga is talking about this stave, or if it was actually like a helm of some sort that Fafnir was talking about. Ægishjálmr is comprised of different runes that are kind of easy to make out. We have Alges, or Elhaz, as the... I don't know if I'm gesturing to the right thing. Wait. I have a fucking dry erase board. So, this makes it a lot easier for me to point out things. So, we have Alges, which is that, which can kind of be seen in the ending points of the stave. Also, the lines could be indicative of Isa, which in and of itself can stand for both ice, translates to ice, also concentration and focus and will. So yeah, it depends on how you want to see it in the saga. It can be taken as the Helm of Awe that Fafnir was talking about, or it can be taken as something that came later or something that was adapted from that. Sources aren't really concrete and clear, and there is debate over the exact origin of Ægishjálmr. Fun to say at 3 a.m., let me tell you. Traditionally, Ægishjálmr was worn between the brows as almost like a personal protection stave in a way. It wasn't really meant to be something extravagant, like, look at me. It was meant to have an effect of bringing terror to your enemies, basically by sheer force of your own might. Does that make any sense? So it's supposed to, bolster you and make you a fearsome person, but it's not supposed to be the focal point. You're not going to, paint it on your armor. It's a small mark with a grand effect. So, for instance, so when Fafnir, if we're going off of the thought process that Fafnir is talking about Ægishjálmr, He says, in this translation, I thought I alone was braver than everyone. Not many came to meet me. The other translation states, none dared come near me. So it could be taken to mean that Ægishjálmr almost inspired fear via the person wearing it that kept enemies away. So it's kind of both inspiring terror and personal protection. So the difference between the Vegvísir and Ægishjálmr is, one is dated into manuscripts from the 18th century. Doesn't really appear that much, if at all. I'm not aware of any Old Norse sources where Vegvísir appears, but somebody could feel free to correct me on that. And it is mainly used as a compass stave. It is for finding your way, not losing sight of your path, and getting you from point A to point B, or however metaphorically you want to interpret that. And Ægishjálmr is for inspiring terror in your enemies. Could possibly be traced back to the saga of Fafnir, but there is debate over that. Thirdly, we're going to be talking about Valknut, which is often associated with Odin, often translated as the Knot of the Slain. This is a very popular symbol that most people tend to associate with Odin specifically. Archaeologically, it does appear on specific runestones. They appeared on a few runestones that date to the Viking Age, and they are on the Swedish island of Gotland. And they do also appear on grave goods from the Osberg ship in Norway. So this symbol does have roots in the Viking Age to some extent. It appears to have mainly been connected to the dead. Now, Odin does have a lot to do with the dead. An accurate interpretation of that could be that it was a symbol associated with Odin. Another interpretation of Valknut is that it could be representative of Hrungnir's heart. Hrungnir was a Jotun whom was slain by Thor, but also had interactions with Odin. According to the Prose Edda, Snorri's interpretation of the Prose Edda, he had a heart that was made of stone and pointed with 3 corners. There's a lot of debate over this symbol, is what I'm trying to get at, is that there are a lot of interpretations of how this could be taken. As far as it goes, the Valknut does appear on runestones. It has historical reference of being used during the Viking Age. However, while it appears to be connected with the dead in some capacity, we're not exactly 100% sure how. That being said, it's not an insane jump of logic to associate it with Odin, as Odin was the god of the slain. As far as the modern interpretation goes, it's not inaccurate. And having said that, the modern interpretation, regardless of how it might have been interpreted 1,000 years ago, is so widely regarded that that's its meaning. I mean, the meaning it has today is, by and large, the way that it should be probably interpreted. I mean, if so many people believe a symbol means a certain thing, especially if there's no contradictory evidence, I mean, then who's to say that that's not what the symbol means? Symbols can change over time, and the weight of the interpretation that we give them is what imbues them with power. Vegvísir itself could just be a cool tattoo on somebody's arm if they don't have a belief in the symbol itself, or a belief that will give power to the symbol. But if you do you do draw or use any of these symbols for any meaning, what you believe that they mean has more power now than any historical manuscript that you might not even be aware exists will ever give it, because it's the here and now that matters. It's more of that's more of my personal interpretation of it, is that a person's belief in something will give it power. So if, I drew Ægishjálmr on my whiteboard. Is my whiteboard now gonna terrify the masses? No. And then again, getting into Galdr, it's a whole other thing, because Galdr is very specific, and there's a lot that goes into creating Galdrastafir and staves. There's a lot. So, if anyone wants to know any more about specific symbols, or let me run my mouth about how things came to be, then that's awesome. I hope this cleared up some maybe misconceptions or answered some questions that you might have had about these 3 particularly popular symbols within heathendry. And if there are any other symbols, or if there's anything else you want me to go particularly in-depth on, I will try to compile more cohesive notes. So let me know, and we'll go from there. See ya.